season 2 of the Curious You podcast. We're back, this time even more curious, more authentic, and ready to go towards our dream lives and jump off the edge, quite literally. I always knew there would come a time when I would start inviting authentic women to this podcast for interviews, but I never really felt ready for that up until this moment. But the time has come, and I'm so happy, humbled, and privileged to have my first guest on this podcast, a woman who not only changed my life, but lives of thousands of other women out there. Her name is Lucia Adžić, and she's one of the leading business mentors in the Balkans, specifically in Croatia, and a trailblazer in what she does. She is literally a prime example of someone who embodies courage, curiosity, and authenticity. She's a business strategist and an empowerment advocate who inspires women to lead actually with authenticity and to grow their businesses without relying on traditional marketing and, most importantly, to believe in their own potential. She's a mother of 4, a passionate community builder, and someone who isn't afraid to share both her personal and professional experiences and practical strategies for actually creating a lifelong impact. Her story is one of resilience, vision, transformation, and the power of choosing a path that feels aligned and true. After studying medicine in Zagreb and spending time as an intern in Canada, Lucia made the bold decision to step away from her career in medicine and follow a completely new path, which we will hear about today. And she's the creator of Neka Nova Priča, which is one of Croatia's most popular podcasts. And again, to repeat, she's a trailblazer in the country's not only coaching scene, but also podcasting. And this is actually a podcast that I have listened to on a daily basis when I became a mom. A podcast that helped me grow and see the harder days with a different set of eyes. So thank you for that, Lucia. I am so excited to hear from you today and to allow my listeners to hear from a person like you about your journey, the lessons you've learned along the way, and all about the wisdom that you bring to women who are ready to step into leadership and create businesses that reflect who they really are. Welcome, Lucia.
Oh, thank you so much. That was such a wonderful intro. I am so grateful. And thank you for introducing me, because that's the part that I like the least about doing interviews, when someone says, "Can you please introduce yourself?" And I'm like, "No, please don't ask me that," because I just hate speaking about myself in such way. But it's so beautiful to hear these things coming out of someone else's mouth. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for introducing me. And for having me. I'm honored to be your first ever guest. That's so exciting, because I know you'll one day reflect back on this moment and say, when I started doing interviews, she was the first one. And I'm like, yay, I want to be that for you. I'm so grateful that I get to be that for you.
I'm grateful as well, Lucia. Very grateful and humbled. And happy to actually hear more about, because now that we've covered your story, I guess the first question that I want to ask you is, what did it take to become the person who you are today? I wanted to touch upon that early context, like what values or beliefs helped you get to where you are today? And were those values instilled in you in your childhood, or did you have to work on them?
Well, I would say it's a combination of a lot of different things. When you ask someone, how did you become who you are today? It's never just one thing. It's just a combination of a lot of little things, a lot of different decisions, a lot of different life situations where you made certain choices. When it comes to my context, my background, I was born and raised by 2 incredibly brave people who came from nothing and decided to build a beautiful life for themselves. They're not entrepreneurs. They never were. I think they dabbled into having a private medical practice when I was about 10 years old, but it only lasted for a brief season, and then they were back to being employed, which is perfectly fine, because I don't think this life is for everyone. But I wasn't raised in an environment where this kind of lifestyle and this kind of movement was modeled for me, but my parents did model bravery. They did model resiliency. They did model going after whatever it is that you want. They never tried to box me in. They did have like really strong opinions on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense and what a person should do and what a person shouldn't do. And I listened to that up until the point where I was, living this life that I thought was perfect. I finished med school, I had a job, I was just starting on my career. Obviously, I had a baby, I had a husband. We were just this young family starting off, and I just felt this feeling of this is not for me. I'm not content. It's not that I wasn't happy, but I wasn't content. And that kind of ate me up little by little, little by little. And I feel like some of those values that they've instilled or modeled as I was growing up really helped me choose courage and choose to make bold moves, even though I didn't necessarily have the support. I didn't necessarily have people cheering me on and being like, yes, you should definitely leave that career that you spent 6+ years working super hard on. You should definitely pursue something that's completely unsafe, completely abstract, completely insane. I didn't have that kind of support. The only person who was doing that for me was my husband, and he had no idea what I was doing. He just knew that he knew me and he saw me, and he told me, like, I have no idea what you're doing, but knowing you, I know you'll make it, whatever it is. And if you say this is the way to go, we're going that way, and that's it. So my mom, she used to say to me, don't be afraid of life. Wow. Don't be afraid of life. She has 5 kids. She built this incredible career. She's just been through a lot in life, and she just kept going. And she was like, don't be afraid of life. If you're afraid of life, you're always going to, play smaller than what you're actually capable of. And I feel like that sentence was engraved somewhere within me, within my memory, ever since I was, I'd say probably a teenager, when we started having like these bigger conversations. And I think it's what led me into making a lot of these little decisions, because when it comes to the process of becoming, it's hardly ever one choice or one decision or one turning point. It's a bunch of little things, a bunch of little decisions that I was making on a daily basis from the moment I'd say I turned 22-ish, 23, when I started to live more consciously, when I realized that I was actually alive, because that's also something my mom often says about young people. They don't even know that they're alive. They're just like, you're just going through the motions. You're just doing life, but you don't really feel the repercussions. You don't really think much. You're not really aware of the consequences. You're not aware that your thoughts and your actions actually create your results. So I started living more consciously around that time when I was getting out of a really bad breakup. And then I started making little choices every single day that felt different than what I was choosing before, and that felt like they were leading me towards somewhere. I did not know where it was that I wanted to go. I didn't even know that a few years ago. I don't even know that today, to be honest. Right. But it's just a bunch of these like little decisions that feel like they make sense without knowing the bigger picture, without seeing the path laid out fully, without having all of the clarity and all of the strategies, just one step at a time. And choosing courage over and over again.
I think I had goosebumps like 3 times while you were saying that. I mean, that is so powerful. Don't be afraid of life. So powerful and so simple, and something that seems to be very hard to understand in practice, because I feel like a lot of us, we want to know what we're doing in terms of if it's going to work out or not. And I think that could also be the thing that's preventing a lot of people from jumping off the edge and starting something of their own, because going from a comfortable life where you have a full-time job, as you said, and throwing yourself out into an unknown world is very scary. And the fact that you had your husband there to support you, I think that's already something, because I think that a lot of people don't even have one person that could support them on that journey. So I think
Yeah.
that's very, very powerful.
Absolutely, and I'm so grateful for that, and it really inspired me. Like his actions or his support really inspired me to be that for other people as well. Like
Right.
imagine being that for other
Yeah.
people. Imagine being the
Yeah.
one that says, "I believe in you." Like
Yeah.
if you believe you can do it, I'm all in. We're all in. We're just doing it. So that's what I do today for a lot of my clients. Um, but also, one thing that I wanted to mention that I think was key when it comes to just choosing courage and choosing those little actions is this belief that I had, that I also believe that I kind of picked up on pretty young, was that I really truly believe that everything happens for my greater good. So if I'm doing something and I don't know if it's gonna quote unquote work, even if I fail, I believe that that's the right thing, and then I'm
Right.
excited for it. Like, if this fails, we'll just see what happens. We'll learn from it. We'll grow from it. Something will happen. Something will change within me on a cellular level, and that's a win in and of itself. Like that still
Right.
works.
Yeah.
And when you have this mindset, and when you move through life like this, then the fear is a lot less prominent. It's a lot less directive when it comes to your actions and just the way that you're moving through life in general. And it's liberating to really believe that. And even now, when I look back on a lot of situations in my life where it was hard, it was excruciating, it was painful, there was a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, a lot of loss, a lot of insecurity. Those were the situations in my life that shaped me into the person that I am today. Not the good times, not the wins, not the celebrations, not the, those are also great, incredible. But the ones that really shape you are the ones that we all run away from. So when you stop running away, when you stop looking at things from this perspective, like it's all happening for the greatest good of all, even when it's horrifying, it's happening for the greatest good of all. If you can really live from this space, there's no way you're not going to create an incredible life. There's just no way.
That is so powerful. Talking about all of these things that you learned from your parents, more specifically your mom, because you were mentioning her, I'm wondering now, was this something that she learned by herself, or was it generational, like passed on through your family?
Well, I honestly can't speak to that from a standpoint of like certainty, but
Right.
my mom came from a family where women were really hardworking. They were carrying a lot of the load. They were, I think, generations of women who were not just homemakers. They were also home builders. They were also, my grandma was working, which was very unusual. So she had a job which was very unusual for a woman in that, at that
Right.
time. She also had 3 kids and she was working full time and at some point even making more money than my grandpa. So I
Oh, wow.
think my mom had that model to her, like what it means to be empowered as a woman, what it means to have your own stability, security, your own means to an end. So I think that was instilled in her, but also she came from a background where she had a lot of responsibility at a really young age, which has its ups and downs. Obviously, we know the repercussions that this can leave long
Yeah.
term. But I'd say that, yeah, definitely women in my mom's family, at least her mom, were a little bit different when it comes to just what their life work was. It wasn't
Yeah.
just being at home and being with the kids. So I think she learned that. And she also chose that path for herself because she was the first one in her family, the first woman in her family who went and got educated. She moved from the island that she was born and raised at to a bigger city and then to Zagreb to study. And then she went with my dad, and then she made a bunch of like really brave decisions to fight for the life that she really wanted. So I think it goes way back, but not. I can't really say if
Right.
that's her perception of things. That's just how I'm seeing
Right.
it now.
But I think that also leads into adaptability. And because when I think of you, I think the first word that comes to my mind is adaptability and transformation, because I think that I've been following your life for the past 5 or 6 years, and you've grown from a caterpillar into a butterfly. But not only that, you've changed the versions of yourself. The colors of that butterfly have changed, and you were always very quick to make a decision and to be like, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm jumping into something else. And it seems, I mean, on the outside it seems so easy. I must imagine the processes you go through internally to be able to make a quick decision and change yourself. But I think that would boil down to this one word when I think about you: transformation and adaptability. And this actually leads me to the next question, because I've mentioned this before, that you were studying medicine. I think you finished medicine in Zagreb, then you went to Canada, to Montreal, where you had to learn French as well in order to work there for a year, if I remember correctly. What was the hardest identity shift that you had to go through?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because as I was going through that whole process, I wasn't really thinking about identity shifts. I wasn't really thinking about what it is that I need to do in order to become the woman that, I was just really walking alongside the desire that I was feeling, and alongside the resistance that I was feeling, and alongside the misalignment that was happening within my body as I was progressing on this journey of becoming a medical doctor, a specialist, or whatever. And I wanted to explore that part of myself because I really enjoyed that. I loved medicine. I still love it to this day. I love knowing about the human body. I love knowing how incredible it is. And I love being able to have the knowledge and the skill set to help someone in a way that most people can't really help you. And I enjoyed the practice of medicine, but I didn't enjoy the system. I didn't enjoy what the job included as a whole. So I went to Canada just to explore what it's like to be on my own, because that was a stretch for me, to go somewhere where I've never been, on the other side of the world, speaking a language that I never spoke before, that I made myself learn within like 10 months. I wanted to just stretch myself and see what that's like. And it wasn't a whole year. It was more like summer internships type of thing. And once I got there, and the more experience that I gained through working there, but also coming home and then working here, was like every single day at my job was like another confirmation that this is just not for me. It's not that something's wrong with it, or that it's completely broken, or that people shouldn't be doing that. I just felt like it wasn't for me. I just felt like there was something bigger, something greater, something more fulfilling, something more liberating. And I just felt like there was this value of mine that I wasn't in alignment with, and that's freedom. I did not like being contained. I remember that even since I was a little girl. Like, one of the first photos that I have from my elementary school is the photo of me crawling on the floor that my teacher took to show my mom, because I could not sit still. I could not I could not sit still. I could not. She was like, she's not made for this. She's not. But I was an excellent straight A student, never had issues in school, but I hated being contained. I even remember in high school, I would always pick a seat that was close to the window, and I would just drift off. Drift off through the window in a different world. And I was just like, that was a lot of suffering on my part, in terms of like knowing I have to be there and I have to do the thing in order to get the degree, in order to do. I was really like a little soldier, really resilient when it comes to discomfort, really tolerant when it comes to discomfort, because I knew that was the means to an end. That was like, we do this in order to get that, and that's fine. That's the price you have to pay. You have to sit here, you have to learn, that's fine. But when I came to a point in my life, and motherhood, I think, was a really big catalyst in all of this, when I started to realize like freedom is actually one of my core values. We all say that it is, that we want to be free, but in order to actually live from a place of freedom, you have to take a lot of responsibility, a lot more responsibility than most people are actually willing to take. And I just came to a point where I started to feel like I could not abandon that value of mine anymore. It was not about medicine, it was not about patients, it was not about the system, it was about misalignment with my own values. So I think the biggest identity shift was in authenticity, in just getting to know myself more, in realizing, wow, this is what I want. This is what I've never allowed myself to desire. This is what I've never allowed myself to pursue. This is what I thought wasn't possible for me. Like, who gets that? Who has a job where you can have a bunch of kids and raise them and be a present mom and be there for your family, and then at the same time work whenever you want to work, do whatever you love to do, make a bunch of money? Like, that just does not happen. Like, who does that? And giving myself the permission to pursue that, I think, was the biggest moment in that identity shift, where I became the person who actually believes that's possible for her, instead of being the person who thinks that that's this far out idea that only women in the States or Canada or Australia or other parts of the world that I was very in tune with are able to live.
Reserved for someone else, like we often think,
Yeah.
the unicorn people.
Yeah.
That is incredible, because I think that's, thinking about my own life, I've had a similar story like you. Instead of medicine, I studied law. I also did not like school. I also sat next to a window. I also actually jumped from that window a couple of times. It was the basement floor so that I could get out of school. But there was always this need to actually go through that, go through the process, get that diploma, get that certificate, finish university, masters, and sort of be a good girl through all of that. But then I would put on my Walkman and some good music, and I would drift off into daydreaming about all the things that I could become, about the life that I could be living. And actually, that was stuck in my daydream for the longest time, until I also became a mom, just like you said. And I feel like becoming a mom, we take higher responsibility for ourselves and for our own lives, because if you're not aligned and not authentic with who you are, it's very hard to mother with this calm and beautiful energy, I feel like, because there will always be something inside of us that's eating us from inside, not living up to our own potential. And it's just a hole that we need to dig through and to become our best selves. So that is really, I think, what a lot of women that I talk to go through when they become mothers, and they sort of wake up from this daydreaming. But I also think at the same time, and it's something that I've been thinking about for the past few months, of how important the first part of our lives were, because they set a foundation, a very strong foundation for everything we're doing here. Because nowadays I feel like there's this trend of skipping the first part, skipping the hard work, the discomfort, the discipline, the, doing what you have to, skipping all of that and just starting your dream life right away. And I'm not sure where the line is between all of that, if it's going to be possible for future generations to actually skip all of this that we had to go through and dive straight into the dream life. Because it's also about, if you have this idea of something that you want and you get that, and you've talked about this a couple of times, you get to where you want to be, but then you feel like you never really arrive there, because it's not about what you want in terms of imagining it, it's about the process itself. Because once we arrive to where we want to, we always want more. We change who we were, and we have this other idea of who we want to be and where we want to go. And the only thing that is constant actually is the change of life that we go through. So can you talk a bit more about that? How did that feel for you?
Yeah, because I was definitely one of those people that started off with an idea of getting there. When I get there, I'm going to be so happy. When I get there, I'm going to be so content. When I get there, I'm just going to be so at peace. When I get there, I'll do whatever I want. When I get there, all of the things in my life that are a burden now, that are difficult now, that are heavy now, are just going to be super easy and super light. When I get there, I'll be free to do whatever I want. When I get there, I'll do the thing. When I get there, I'll have the courage. When I get there, it's going to be easier.
Right.
And I really chased getting there for a really long time. And it took me a while to realize it wasn't just getting there for the first goal. It was like getting there for the 10th goal that I stopped and realized, what am I even doing? Where's this illusion coming from? Where's this, like, what even is a dream life? Like, I feel if we're speaking to younger generations, that just selling that dream life, that thing that they see on social media is actually so deceiving. So deceiving, because if you start to pursue it from this standpoint of believing that it's a dream, that it's a fantasy, that it's something so beautiful, so easy, so, uniform. If you even get there, you realize you'll never get there because life's always going to be 50-50. And the realizations that I've had since I started really approaching life from this, not from this space of like, I'm creating my dream life. I'm just living what is and accepting what is and moving through what is and just going forward because that's the only way. That's what we're made for. We're not made to get to a point and then stay there. It's easier. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more supported, I'd say, with just the way the world works today, especially with all of the distractions, with all of the dopamine hits that we're getting constantly, the addictions that we're creating. It's easier to stay there at a certain point, but it's not normal. But it's not how it should be. It's not what we're placed on this earth to do. We're placed on this earth to grow and expand and explore our potential. And that is a never-ending game that stops, I think, when you die. I don't think it stops before that. It's just like you're climbing this mountain and there's no top. But the higher you climb, the better the view, the wiser you are, the more you see in all the other people who are still at the bottom, thinking that it's too big and thinking that it's unclimbable, or thinking that the only thing that matters is the top when it doesn't really exist. So I think that was one of the most profound realizations of my life when I arrived to a really big milestone in my business and in my personal life, and I just felt the same. Nothing changed. There was a brief moment of, oh wow, I can't believe I got here. Oh wow, that little girl, that teenager, that young woman, like, I can't believe I got here. This is so crazy. This is beyond anything I could have imagined for myself. But that was a brief moment. And then it was just like, I'm still me, nothing changed. I still feel sad. Sometimes I still get angry. I still get frustrated. I still cry. I still have human emotions. I still experience life as half good and half bad. Nothing changed. And I realized it never will. And the acceptance of that and the dedicated finding of beauty in that changed everything. When I started realizing, wow, it's actually much deeper than just hitting a goal. It's actually not the goal that makes you happier and more content and more at peace. It's the journey of becoming. It's, when you build something incredible and you get to a certain point where you look back and see, wow, the thing I've built is just incredible. The feeling is not about the thing and about the goal and about the milestone that you reach. It's about the whole journey. Like, you look back, for example, if you create a product that you're so proud of and you start selling that product, the moment that you have the product in your hand does not compare to the journey. When you look back to the whole journey of when the idea first started, when you first made, initial layouts of what it's going to look like and how you want it to be, and then the process, and then just the production, and then all of the things. That's the most important part. That's the most incredible part. And when you focus on that, you're constantly in the journey. So if this is the most incredible moment, then the goal is just going to be another part of the whole journey, just something that you get to, you tap yourself on the back, you celebrate, you tell everyone, and then you keep moving.
I love
It's not a
that.
big deal.
I love that so much. I think it's very important for the world we live in to really talk more about these topics. And everything you said, I mean, I'm completely on board, and I've had that experience from last year when I started showing up online, and actually it all started for me with writing my first children's book and creating that piece of product, beautiful product that I was dreaming about for months before. And I remember the moment that the book arrived and I was holding it and it felt so normal. And I had to actually talk to myself and tell myself, hey, Nina, this is incredible. You did an amazing thing. I mean, only a year ago, this book didn't exist. It wasn't on the market. And here it is. It went from your head and became a product. But I felt the
Congratulations.
same. Thank you. But I felt the same. I didn't feel anything changed internally. Externally, of course, a lot of things changed, but it was a process that I had to go through, and that's exactly what you're saying. I mean, here we are. I'm recording a podcast with you. If you would have told me this 1 year ago, I would have said, no freaking way. Like, first of all, I'm not going to have a podcast. Second of all, to interview Lucia, like, no. And it took a year to get to where I'm today, where I feel completely okay, natural, and happy doing this. And I can imagine what will happen in a year. But as you said, I'm the same. I mean, same but better in terms of growth and sitting in discomfort. But the person who I am, I still have, the same house where I live in terms of, relationships inside that house. I'm a mom who has her daily struggles and a daily schedule like any other mom. So those things don't change in how we feel inside, except that we're, I think, better able to sit in discomfort and go towards things that change us. Which leads me to the next question is, sometimes, do you ever have a moment where you feel like there's too much weight on you? Would you ever prefer to be able to be satisfied with a life that doesn't really challenge you to grow every day, that doesn't, you know, challenge you to just keep evolving and to be able to stop and be like, I'm content, everything's good now?
Yeah, so I definitely have moments where things feel heavy. I feel like that's often left out of the conversation, but it's so very real because the bigger the freedom, the bigger the responsibility. And carrying responsibility is not always an easy thing. Being responsible for my family, for my 4 young kids, for my business, for my employees, for my clients in a way, for how I'm showing up. It gets a lot sometimes. And, moving through different milestones of the business and moving through different seasons and different situations and different challenges, there are definitely days where I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It would be so much easier. It could be so much easier sometimes. Yeah. But then I remind myself that the price of freedom is responsibility, is taking responsibility, is choosing to be the person. Because I think the problem is we make it look way too easy. And I know that I often get that feedback from people online, like, you make it look so easy. You make it look so easy to have a bunch of kids and to be a mom and to have this family life and then to have this massive 7-figure business. Like, you make it look so easy. But the truth is, it's not. It's just that we are very selective in what we're sharing online. We're very selective with how we're sharing things. We're very selective when it comes to what we think is actually necessary to share. But I really do love talking about these things because I love bringing this little dose of reality into this online space because I feel like it's really necessary, and it does get freaking hard sometimes. I cry, I get really vulnerable, I get really weak sometimes. I need a lot of support in order to carry the kind of responsibility that I have. I need a lot of people who have my back, who are there for me, who allow me to have my human moments, who allow me to be in my weakness, to be in my lack of power, to be in all of the things that actually make us human. Because there's this illusion that we can only be powerful and brave and confident. It's just an illusion, because every single person that you see being extremely confident and powerful and brave and courageous, they are the way they are, the way you see them, because they allow themselves to be the complete opposite as well. Right. And I feel like that's what creates this internal balance that keeps you moving forward. When you stop moving from this idea that you only get to be one of those things, that it only gets to be easy and beautiful and nice and effortless. Because the price of effortless is actually a lot of freaking effort that nobody sees, because it's the behind the scenes, because it's not when I put my, when I take my phone out and I don't record these things because I'm just too busy living my life.
Yeah.
But it happens. It gets really hard sometimes. It gets really freaking hard. It is perfectly clear to me why 99.9% of women would not choose this life for them.
Very true.
Because it's hard.
Very true. And
Yeah.
what's keeping you to keep going?
I think it's just a relationship that I have with myself. I think it's self-respect. I think it's honoring the feeling that you have inside, honoring the internal guidance system, honoring the intuition. Because when you said, like, how does it feel for you, or maybe I'm just paraphrasing this question, like, how does it feel for you to just, stop and be, just be content and all of that?
Right.
It doesn't feel natural.
Yeah.
Because I'm very happy in my life, but I'm not always content. I'm not content with the level of results that I have because I know that I could have more. It's not that I need more, it's that I want more. It's that I feel like that's why I'm
Why you're here.
to explore what more means like. That's like movement is my natural state. And honoring that is why I'm doing this. It's not because I'm craving or I believe stillness is my natural state. I don't believe that for human beings. I believe that we bought into that idea in order to nurture comfort.
Yeah.
While avoiding creating actual capacity to hold discomfort and fear and other uncomfortable human emotions. Because I feel like that's just a natural state.
Yeah.
Movement, progression, evolution. And I'm just honoring that. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not, you have to do that by X amount. I don't even
Yeah.
set goals. Like, I know people are often shocked by this, but I don't have yearly plans, 5-year plan. I mean, it's not that I don't set goals, but when I set a goal, it's more like, I already know this is happening. It's just a matter of time. So let's see when we can make that happen.
Yeah.
It's never like by the end of 2025, I need to have this in my, why would I want to limit myself in that way? Because maybe I'll get it tomorrow. Maybe it I have to keep an open mind.
Yeah, but I also feel like the society has a plan for us, until we're 30. There's a perfectly laid out plan to finish school, high school, university, masters, get a job, get married, have kids, and then you do all of that and you ask yourself, is this it? Like, what now? What happens now? And I think that both of us were in that situation. Specifically for me, I remember having 2 kids and both my husband and I having full-time jobs, 9 to 5. And in the evening, the kids would fall asleep and we'd turn on Netflix and watch Netflix. And both of us were like roaming around. It's like, it felt like we were going in circles. Nothing really was happening. I mean, on the outside, a lot of things were happening because we were growing in our careers. We had 2 kids. So when you look at us from the outside, it seemed like this perfect family who has it all figured out. But deep down inside, both of us were feeling like something was missing because both him and I are very, like you said, very not only intuitive, but loyal to who we are. And it felt like we weren't loyal to who we are. Instead, we were just asleep in a system that we didn't agree with.
And that's the
That's how it
dream they're
felt.
selling you. That's the
Yeah.
dream they're selling you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
married, start a family,
Yeah.
work a job, watch Netflix. And that's
Yeah.
it. That's the dream.
Yeah. And then they keep saying, oh, when you're in your 20s, you believe everything's possible, but you're so young. And then you grow up and you become realistic and you start buying into that. Because I remember how I felt when I was 20, when I finished my law degree. And I was like, yeah, because I had this biggest dream that I would work for the European Commission and that I would help bring my country, Bosnia and Herzegovina, into the European Union. That was my ultimate goal because I lived in Brussels for 6 years and I worked there. So I saw myself as this big politician, working towards that. And that was this thing that I've had. And when I became a mom, I realized, hey, this is not what I want. I don't want to be this big politician who's away from home all the time on work trips or, in the office. I want to be a present mom, but what's the best way where I can get towards that? And little did I know that it's just by being myself, being authentic, and, doing topics that I love, which is, again, like you said, and I love that. I'm going to write that down somewhere, honoring your internal guidance system, which is actually a lot of questions that I receive from women who are starting out and who don't know from where to start. Their first question is, from where do I begin? So, Lucia, what would you tell women who are starting their own business? What's a question that you wish more women ask themselves before starting?
What's the question that I wish more women ask themselves before starting? I think diving into the deeper element of why I'm even doing this. Because if you're going to go and live an unusual life, if you're going to take unusual steps, if you're going to break out of the matrix, if you're going to be different, you better have a really good reason to do so. And if that reason is only, I want to have more money, or I want to, maybe if you're really, really self-driven, you'll get yourself there, but it won't last. Yeah. It won't be something that's going to keep progressing unless you really expand that vision. That vision that you're moving towards needs to be big enough for you to actually choose courage and discomfort over and over and over and over again. And yes, it can and it should have a personal element to it, your own personal benefit, but also what's the bigger picture? What's the collective benefit? What's the reason you would want to do this even if you were doing it for free? Like when you find that, I think it's easier to take the steps. And I also feel like that question of, well, I don't know what steps to take is like such a subtle and fine form of self-sabotage. Yeah. And just a really nice way to keep yourself stuck thinking that there's this like big first step, perfectly laid out, perfectly clear, that's just waiting for you to go ahead and take it, when the reality is it's just not. It's like one little tiny step in the right direction that can look like a Google search. That can be a first step. It doesn't have to be this big thing where you're going out and declaring to the world that you're about to change your whole life. By all means, go do it if that's what you feel is the first step, to declare, to be that bold and unapologetic. I applaud you for that. But for the majority and for myself as well, it was just, let's just go. Let's just see what happens. Let's just take the first steps. I remember when I decided to start my podcast, I didn't think about it as like this huge project that's going to take a lot of my time and energy, and how am I going to do it, and it feels overwhelming, and I don't even know what I'm going to be talking about for years on end, and I don't even know the people that I'm going to interview, and I don't even know how, like, I did not think about any of those things. I was just like, starting a podcast, what's the first step? What's the first little step? Googling for me. I'm self-taught when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, and just being someone who now helps other women build powerful personal brands. Like, I am self-taught all the way. Like, Google was my best friend. YouTube was my best friend. I would spend countless hours just learning how to create things. Be resourceful. That's the first step. Choose to find the answers instead of sitting in, I don't know the answers. I need better questions. Yeah, you probably do, but it's also less thought and more action.
Yeah, clarity comes from action at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had so many moments where, I'm in my shower, and sometimes I get stuck in my own thoughts, and I keep thinking, oh, I have this and that, how is that going to work out? And then I just remind myself, hey, Nina, it's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just take the first step. And that's something that I keep reminding myself about. Just take the first step and everything else will work out. And life has been proving to me for the past 2 years that it really does work that way. So
yeah, you jump and then the net appears.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
And do you feel the pressure as a leader to have it all figured out?
No, actually, I don't because I don't sell that to my clients. I don't position myself as the one who has it all figured out. I don't make people believe that I'm perfect. I don't, yeah, I just don't sell that because I don't think that that's realistic, because I don't think that that's something we should aspire to
Yeah.
become in our lives. So I never feel the pressure. I feel really comfortable being imperfect, really comfortable being the one who doesn't have all the answers. I feel really comfortable being the one who's just willing to lead the way, even though we don't know the way. Like in my head, the visualization is always, we're going through this deep, dark forest that most people are avoiding, the path
Yeah.
less traveled. But I don't really know the path. It's not like I've been there 10 times and then came back and then I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to pick you up. It's more like where I'm going steps ahead and I don't know. But what I do know is that I have the resiliency, the emotional intelligence, the capacity to keep going. That's the standard that I set for myself when it comes to seeing myself as a leader. The standard is I get to be the one that leads the way. I get to be the one that has the emotional intelligence, capacity, adaptability, willingness to go through it, not around it, through it. And that's enough. And that's why people follow. It's not because I have the path laid out perfectly. It's not because I turn around and say, hey guys, I know exactly what this is going to look like for you. Because at the end of the day, that's a lie. That's a blunt lie. I have no idea what this journey is going to look like for you. I know that there will be certain turning points. I know who you need to be in terms of your way of thinking, in terms of your beliefs, in terms of your actions, in terms of your choices. I do know that, but I don't know what that's going to look like for you. And selling you in a way that makes you think that way is actually putting you in a box. It's actually inauthentic.
Yeah.
It's actually creating replicas of myself, which was never an intention because they don't work. They don't have the same effect. They might look similar, but like deep down, if you really appreciate quality and authenticity and durability, it's just not the same thing. So my approach in business and life in general is not like a cookie cutter approach where I'll tell you, this is exactly what you need to do and this is the only way, you have to do it this way. It's more like, no, like the path is wide enough. You
Yeah.
can crawl,
There's
you can
space.
jump, you can be a rabbit, you can be a snake, you can do whatever you want. Like you just need to figure out
Yeah.
what that is for you. And then we go, together. We go together. Power meets power. That's how I see it.
Lucia, who was your greatest teacher in life? Do you have one?
Oh, wow, I have so many. I don't have one. I can't say it's one. My kids taught me a lot more than I thought, honestly. Before becoming a mom, I never, like, I would read these things where people say, like, your children are your greatest teachers. And I was like, how can a
Yeah,
6-month-old
learn from kids.
baby teach me anything? Like, what are you guys talking about? But as I kept progressing on my motherhood journey and I kept adding to the bunch, I kept realizing how all of the things that were difficult and are still difficult for me in motherhood are actually reflections of all of the places that I have yet to meet myself at, all of the things that I have not discovered about myself, all of the things where I'm rejecting parts of myself, all of the like little moments I thought would break me actually ended up being some of the turning points. So I feel like the relationship with my children, with each and every one of my kids, has really been a huge catalyst for my personal growth. And it taught me a lot. So, yeah, as cliche as it sounds, I feel like my kids were really big
Yeah.
teachers and still are for me. I also have mentors, people that I look up to, my therapist. Yeah, just a lot of people. I'm not the one to like, or maybe I just don't have the experience of like this one person. That's just
Yeah.
one person. I know some people do, and that's perfectly fine. But for
Yeah.
me, it's just a combination of a lot of different people who have crossed my path, who created an impact, who left a mark. Because, you know, there are people you meet and then you forget about them, or you remember them briefly. But there are people who just leave something, like a little mark on your heart, something that you know, like even in 50 years, you'll look back and you'll remember their name. I have a handful of those people in my life today, and I'm so grateful for that.
But that is also, I think, the ability to see people as your teachers, right? Because whoever, at least I believe in that whoever enters our life enters it for a reason, is there to teach us something, a lesson that we need to learn in order to move on to our next level, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And the teachers aren't always the people that we want to keep remembering. Because now that I think of it, like some people who have really impacted my becoming are people I do not have a relationship with anymore.
Yeah.
Are people who hurt me, are people who made me question everything, are people who left me doubting myself, fearing life.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I'm grateful for the experience right now, but I'm also realizing that the mark's there, and I don't want it to be there, but it's there. So it's not always like these incredible people that have inspired me. Sometimes it's also these people that have hurt me. Just the acceptance of that. Like there's beauty in that as well. Like I'll carry you for the rest of my life. And I don't think that you deserve it, but you're still here and there's nothing I can do about it except accept it.
Yeah.
And
acceptance.
Yeah. Find what's good in that.
Yeah. Lucia, how do you know when you're operating out of alignment and when you're pushing something by force? Is there a way to know that for you personally?
Yeah, absolutely. I think alignment for me is the biggest measure of success at this point in life, especially. And the way that I know, it's like I wish I could describe it in a way that's not as abstract, but for me, it is a feeling. It is this gut knowing. It is this like, I know that this is what I'm meant to be doing. And even if it's uncomfortable, even if it requires all of me, even if it requires expanding my capacity, being more, stretching myself, if I have the feeling deep inside that this is for me, then that's aligned action. I feel like people often misinterpret what an aligned action is, and they think that an aligned action is the comfortable action. If it feels good, it's aligned. But that's not the case. Most times, that's not the case. When you're stretching yourself, when you're actually growing, we're talking about growth here, when you're actually growing in aligned ways, it will oftentimes, if not every single time, include discomfort and fear. And if you notice that, if you notice, ooh, this feels uncomfortable, this feels stretchy, this feels scary, and then you say, oh, that means that it's not aligned, that means that I should avoid it, you're just missing the whole point.
Yeah.
But when I know, for me personally, when I'm doing things that I don't want to be doing, the feeling that I have, and it's a very retroflective feeling, like I direct it towards myself. It's like I get angry at myself. I get frustrated with myself. I get resentful towards myself. It's like there's this internal being inside that said no, and then I went ahead and said yes. And then this internal part of me is like, you know, you do not want to do this. You knew that this was not the way, and yet you're still doing it. You're still going for it. And then I feel this inner conflict, and it's so clear for me. Like there's no doubt in my mind when I say yes to things that are actually a no, or when I say no to things that are actually a yes. So it's, for me, it's a very, very feeling-based thing. And I believe it is for all of us. It's just that we don't have enough trust in ourselves to honor those feelings. And then instead of staying with the feeling, we go back into our head, we start overthinking, overanalyzing, over-explaining, over just processing, to the point where we completely disassociate from the feeling, and then it's all like a choice based on your head, based on your thoughts, based on the things that are happening inside your head. So yeah, I think it's a feeling-based thing, and what helps is to just really just stay with the feeling, not dismiss it, not try to bypass it by thinking more. It's just staying with the feeling, noticing, wow, this feels interesting. I said yes, but my body is still saying no. Why is that?
Goes back to your internal guidance system, as you said. Everything, I
Yeah,
guess, boils down to that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a lesson that all of us learn at some point, that it's not about turning your head away from the difficult emotions, from fear or discomfort. It's actually asking yourself, what is there? What's on the other side? Why do I feel that way? And is that a call to actually step into a higher version of myself? Talking about
I
the
love
future,
that.
Lucia, you're in the coaching business, mentoring, coaching business, however you prefer to call it. How do you see the future of that? Where is it headed?
I honestly don't know, and I don't really think about that. I'm generally someone who moves from the present because I believe that the present is, where we create our future. Our future is not created in the future. Our future can be created from the past if we don't change the patterns and the usual ways of being. But I very much tend to focus on the present, and I very much tend to focus on staying in my own lane. I don't really follow people. I don't really think about the industry. I don't really think about what's going on. It's not productive for me to go into this space where I'm like, what is going to look like in 5 years and 10 years, where it's going. But what I am noticing and what I am happy to see is that the shifts are happening and things are getting deeper and more meaningful, and people are becoming more and more aware of what it is that it actually takes to create an incredible life. And it's way more than a strategy that you're buying from someone else. It's way more than a 3-step process. It's way more than someone's guaranteed way to succeed.
Right.
It's actually a lot deeper than that. And one of the reasons why I decided to become a therapist while also building my business was because I noticed that there was a huge lack of depth, that there was a gap in the conversation that looked like, oh, here I am giving you all of the tools, and yet you're standing still, unable to use the tools. You're looking at them, you're seeing me as proof of concept. You see the way that I move, you see the results that I'm creating, and yet you're still standing and staring at the tools.
Yeah.
You're still standing and staring at the opportunity. You're not jumping off the edge. Why is that? That has nothing to do with the method, with the strategy, with the tactics, with the tools. That has everything to do with you and your life's experience. It has everything to do with the way you are wired to be today. And having the depth in the conversation that allows me, for example, as your mentor, to see those parts of you and to bring those parts of you forward, to make you realize who it is that you actually have to become in order to sustain the result, not just create the result once, but to sustain and to keep expanding the results. That requires a lot more, and I'm seeing people move towards that more and more, towards greater collective awareness, towards greater, I'd say, collective integration of shadowy aspects of ourselves, of parts of us that we're suppressing, that we're avoiding, and I like that. I really like that. I know that life's going to change dramatically with AI. I know things are going to shift. I know big things are ahead, and I know even in the personal development, coaching, mentoring, business development industry, things are going to shift and evolve. But I feel like the one thing that we need to lean heavily on, and the one thing that can never be replaced, is human connection. Is me sitting across from you right now, seeing you with all of my senses, noticing the way your posture changes, the way your tone changes, the way you change as we dive into this conversation, the way the feelings that you have change. That's something that I feel like it's going to be an asset for people to develop. A skill set that will be valued more and more and more over time, because it's going to be irreplaceable in a way. And I feel like moving away from selling your skills and selling results and selling all of the things is going to be moving towards just building really strong personal brands with the emphasis on the person
Personal,
who is
yeah.
behind the brand and her set of values and skills and her own mission and her own vision based on just pure desire for human connection and impact. I think that's, or maybe that's just my fantasy, but that's where
No, I
I
think, yeah.
feel like things are going.
I think it's very true. I remember 10 years ago, whenever I would listen about, personal brands or businesses, it was always a gray area for me because I didn't feel like I was called towards that space. It always felt, to be completely honest with you, boring. I feel like a lot of words that were used in the past for marketing, sales, business were very strategic, very methodical, very dry, and I never felt a pull towards those areas. And it wasn't until this whole movement started, and not only of personal brands when it comes to personal stories, but also for women. I think the idea of women in sales or women building their lives authentically, that wasn't a thing 10 years ago, or maybe I was too young, maybe it was, but I feel like nowadays women are leading from a different energy as well. It's like a feminine type of business rather than the masculine strategy methods. What do we need to do to reach X by the end of the year? But this, like you said, internal guidance system, taking things intuitively and working towards who you really are and imagining sales as a magnet, because you're just standing there, you're Lucia, you know who you are, you're in your full authentic self, and people come to you. You don't need to say a lot, talk a lot, or promise anything, because you are who you are and people want to be around you. And I think that's a beautiful thing that's happening with, authentic businesses and authentic personal brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the part that really made the shift is actually women coming forward, more and more women coming forward and saying, I have something to offer. And it might not fit into the bro marketing scheme,
Yeah, bro
of
marketing.
how things should work. Because, like you said, you almost needed to have a full blown education in order to be able to understand what it is that they're trying to
Yeah.
explain. And don't get me wrong, I get a lot of value from that nowadays. I actually learn from people like that. I value people like that. I feel like a great blend of the masculine and feminine approach is what makes a really good business. But also, I know, and one of the reasons why I work with women is because they require a different approach. We are just built differently. The
Very true.
way that our brains work, the way that our bodies work, we're not gonna go all in on a business unless it's from an extremely wounded place, unless it helps us feel more whole,
Yeah.
unless it makes us feel like we're able to be whatever it is that we want to be. Like we get to have our version of all. When we have that and when we're being held and understood and taken good care of, there's nothing we can't achieve.
That is so beautifully said. Very beautifully said. And I think I completely agree with you. It's that mix of feminine and masculine, because only being in feminine energy doesn't really
Yeah,
get
it
us
doesn't
to move
work.
into action. So it's really a mix. Like everything in life, it's about balancing and really knowing how to balance different opposing things. I know you said that you don't think about the future a lot, but when you imagine yourself, do you have a vision of who you are, let's say in the next 10 years? Do you have that at all? Or do you not think about it?
I have the tendency to not really think about it. My only desire, that like something that I deeply desire in the next 10 years, is to be healthy and to be at peace. Like those are the only two things that I wish when I go around and send happy birthday wishes to people that I care about, that's what I always say. Like I just want you to be healthy and at peace. Like everything else, you got it. Or you're going to get it. Like
Yeah.
it's so for me, that's the only thing. I am someone who believes in change, and I have no idea what that's going to look like. My internal guidance system is not predictable, so maybe in a few years I'll be doing something completely different. Maybe like in 10 years from now, I will be at a completely different place with a completely different set of aspirations and desires, and like who am I to define that? from this very moment. Like, why would I want to do that? It's so much easier and makes so much more sense for me to just be with what's present and relevant right now and to work towards being the healthiest and happiest version of myself. Not necessarily fully content, because I feel like the idea of content is what often keeps us stuck, but just happy and healthy and at peace. If I have that, like everything else is just perfect. Everything else will evolve, everything else will change, and I'm so open to that. I do not like to keep myself in a box. I do not like to keep myself constrained with one specific thing I'm going to be doing 10 years from now. Maybe I'm going to be doing 10 different things. Like, who knows? Like, let's see what happens. I'm ready for life to surprise me, to expand me, to show me what's possible, to show me what I'm made of. And when I think in terms of like, I already have it all figured out, I'm actually playing God. And that's not what I desire to do for myself.
I love that. Setting the foundation first and then building a house on top of that.
Yeah,
That is
absolutely
how it should be, for sure. Lucia, we're approaching our last question, and since most of my listeners are women who are working on themselves and potentially thinking about diving into their own thing, what would you whisper into an ear of every woman who's standing on the edge of her next level?
I would probably stand really close and tell her or ask her a question. I would probably ask her a question instead of saying this like one sentence. I would ask her a question that would prompt the answer. Like, as you are standing on this edge, feeling what you're feeling, knowing what could be, knowing that life and everything that you've gone through in your life up until this point led you to this point. Is there really another option besides jumping off? Like, is there really, even if I ask this question to myself, or even if I ask you, like, is there really, do you really believe that there's another option other than to go for what you want? Like, what's the other option? There's no other option.
Yeah. Wow.
It's that simple, really. It all comes down to that question. It all comes down to the answer that you get, that you give yourself. And it's like, I know that there's another option standing on the cliff. You keep on standing. I applaud you for standing. Sometimes it takes a while before you allow yourself to jump. But I feel like having that awareness that time is the most precious out of all of the currencies that we're working with, and the one that we cannot get back, the one that does not stop for anyone, helps in making these decisions faster. But at the end of the day, you don't need motivation. You don't need someone to tell you you can do it, because deep down inside, when you ask yourself, what's the other option, you know that there are no other options than to bet on yourself and go all in. That's the only option.
That's so funny, because just last week I was sitting with my best friend. We were on the beach having a glass of wine, and I was telling her there's no other option for me. There's literally no other option for me, because I feel, like you said, this is coming from deep down internally, and it's something that I came here to do. So this is, I think, an incredible answer for any woman who's thinking to jump off the edge. Is there any other option? Love it. Lucia, thank you so much. I feel like I've learned so many things through this podcast. Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking your time. And thank you to all of you who took your time out of your day to listen to this podcast. And we'll be seeing you same time next week on Spotify. And this podcast will also be available on YouTube. So thank you, everyone. And Lucia, thank you. Hope to see you sometime soon again.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for giving me the space. And I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you to everyone who's going to take time out of their day to listen to this.